Whether you've just purchased your first set of acrylic paints and don't yet have access to washes and speed paints, or you're simply looking for a different approach to speed painting with nothing but standard acrylic paints can be a fast and rewarding way to get your miniatures painted. There is only one key concept to understand to achieve this. And no, you don't have to wait till the end of the video to hear what that one idea is. We're going to get to that right at the start. Welcome to Trehane Miniatures. The main trick that we're going to incorporate for the speed painting method is to use a dark primer that will serve as a shadow color for the entire miniature. Something like a deep violet or dark blue will work perfect for this. One of my favorite shadow colors to use for priming my miniatures is Midnight Blue Rust-Oleum. This will be a huge time saver because this primer will not get painted over in the shadow areas. We're going to use a kind of sketch approach to speed painting over this shadow layer. Because this primer color is going to be an exposed shadow color for the model, I like to use a satin finish for this. It looks better as a finished paint color. There's something about flat primer colors, like flat black primer in particular, that just don't look right to me when used as one of the final colors for a miniature. If your miniatures are going to be handled a lot on the table and you're worried about the subsequent acrylic paint rubbing off of this primer, you can always apply a clear matte varnish to this as part of the priming process. This clear varnish can be applied in as little as 2 minutes after the primer is on. One optional step that I added to this Albino Penguin is a moonlight glow on half of the model, but please don't use an airbrush for this. I was in a rush and prepped about 7 miniatures at once just like this using an airbrush, but I'm not too happy with how they turned out. Now this is clearly operator error with the airbrush, but I have achieved much better results with this effect simply by using Vallejo Azure to sketch the lighting effect over the Midnight Blue spray paint. I'll link to that video. I know it's unpopular to demonstrate painting with an airbrush and then tell the viewer that you can achieve the same results without an airbrush, but in this case, I'm saying I got better results using a standard brush. So a standard brush is what I would recommend if you decide to apply this effect. Now we're going to sketch our layers into place. For this first layer, it's important that we leave some of our shadow color visible in the deep recesses and downward facing areas. This particular model is decently textured, so this is actually a little more like dry brushing, but with more paint loaded into the brush. I like to use the translucent nature of acrylic paints as an advantage and build the intensity of the color in just 2 passes. In a future video, I'll demonstrate this technique on a model with smoother surfaces, that way I can better show how I like to sketch these colors over the dark primer. Because the deep shadow color is already in place, I'm using just 2 colors for the skin of this creature, a secondary shadow color and a highlight color. I simply mix the 2 together to create my midtone color. This takes much less time to paint than the previous layer because I'm mostly focusing on the raised surfaces and upward facing areas. Accentuating all of the features of the miniature with the midtone color is where the details of the miniature really start to take shape. Leaving some of the first layer visible not only adds to the contrast of the paint scheme, but also makes the painting faster. Now we do the same thing but with a highlight color. This style of painting is very similar to the oil wash speed painting videos that I did for the Dole and White Polypus thing, and even for the Black Panther speed painting. Except here, the oil wash is unnecessary. In those other videos, I either dry brushed or sketched the colors over a flat black primer, and because I don't like flat black primer as an exposed color on a miniature, I felt it was necessary to apply an oil wash as a shade to fix that issue. I was very happy with the high contrast look of the dark violet oil wash on those miniatures, but here the midnight blue primer color is producing great results without the need for messy washes. Not only that, but this miniature is very close to my favorite style of painting, which is to layer up a series of colors over a black primer. Only with this guy, it doesn't have to be as meticulous or precise. Most small details on the miniature can be painted with a single layer of paint rather than multiple colored layers. This would include items like belt, straps, patches, shoes, and the like on other miniatures. And though this is accomplished with single colors, I still make sure to leave the blue shadow color visible for continuity over the entire miniature. Even when choosing to paint a miniature to a higher standard, I typically begin by painting the most important feature of the model, which for me is usually the skin. The beginning of the project is when I have the most focus and energy to paint well. After that, I start to implement shortcuts on the auxiliary items. To brighten some key features around the face and upper torso, I'll dot in some bright highlights. This is particularly effective for areas that I want to appear shiny, like the tongue. If you've decided to follow me with the blue moonlight glow, then I'll also use a very light blue color to dot in some final highlights on reflective surfaces. I'm using Vallejo Glacier Blue for this and applying it to the teeth and the side of the tongue. Well, that wraps up painting the Albino Penguin for Cthulhu Death May Die. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you think penguins are cute. You know, regular penguins, not this guy.